Stop. Don't serve that. The words caught in my throat, but by the time I'd crossed the dining room, my daughter Katie had already taken her first bite of the roast chicken. Patricia Morrison stood at the head of the table, carving knife in hand, wearing that smile I'd learned to recognize over the past 2 years, the smile that never reached her eyes. "Margaret, honestly," Patricia said, not looking at me. "Must you hover? Katie's a grown woman. She doesn't need her mother inspecting every meal." I watched my daughter's face. 5 seconds, that's all it took. Katie's hand went to her throat. The fork clattered against her plate. "Mom?" Her voice came out strangled, confused. Then the wheezing started. I was already moving, my nurse's training kicking in before my mind could catch up. 37 years in emergency medicine had taught me to act first, panic later. Katie's purse was on the sideboard. I dumped it, found the EpiPen, jammed it into her thigh through her dress. "Call 911. I barked at Brian, Katie's husband, who sat frozen with his napkin still tucked into his collar. Now. But I was already dialing myself, one hand on Katie's pulse, feeling it race beneath my fingers like a trapped bird. Her lips were swelling, the classic anaphylaxis I'd seen 100 times in the ER, but never on my own daughter. 911. What's your emergency? Severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, EpiPen administered 30 seconds ago. Patient is a 32-year-old female, known severe peanut allergy, currently experiencing airway compromise. I gave Patricia's address in Westchester, the fancy Tudor house that had been in the Morrison family for 3 generations, the house where every Sunday dinner felt like a test I was designed to fail. Katie's breathing was getting worse. The EpiPen would buy us time, but not much. Her face was blotching red and white, her eyes beginning to swell shut. "Stay with me, honey," I whispered, stroking her hair. "Ambulance is coming. Stay with me." How did this happen? Brian finally found his voice, standing uselessly behind his chair. "She didn't eat anything with peanuts. Mother doesn't cook with peanuts." "Doesn't she?" I looked up at Patricia, who was still standing at the head of the table, carving knife in her hand, that smile finally gone. In its place was something else, something calculating. "Of course not," Patricia said smoothly. "I would never. This is obviously some other ingredient. Katie's always been so sensitive." The way she said sensitive made my skin crawl. But Katie was making horrible whistling sounds trying to breathe, and I couldn't think about Patricia's tone right now. I tipped Katie's head back slightly, checking her airway. Still open, but swelling fast. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. Felt like 7 hours. The paramedics were efficient, professional. They had Katie on oxygen and an IV before they even got her on the stretcher. I climbed into the ambulance with her, holding her hand, watching the monitors, doing the math in my head. Reaction time, dose of epinephrine, histamine response. Everything pointed to a massive exposure to peanut protein. But Patricia didn't cook with peanuts. She'd told us that the very first Sunday dinner after Katie and Brian's wedding. "I know about your allergy, dear," Patricia had said, touching Katie's hand with those perfectly manicured fingers. "You're safe in my home." At the hospital, they admitted Katie for observation. The ER doctor, a young woman with kind eyes, reviewed the case with me. "The reaction was severe," she said. "Are you sure she didn't accidentally ingest peanuts? Because the antibody response suggests significant exposure." "She's been vigilant for 30 years," I said, "since she was 2. We've never had a reaction this bad." "Well, something triggered it. I want to keep her overnight, make sure there's no biphasic response." I knew what that meant. Sometimes, hours after the initial reaction, the body would attack itself again. Katie wasn't out of danger yet. Brian showed up an hour later, wringing his hands. "Mother's very upset," he said. "She's beside herself with worry." "Is she?" I said flatly. "Of course. She'd never intentionally." I didn't say she did. But I was thinking it. I'd been thinking it since the moment Katie's throat started closing, because I'd seen Patricia's face. I'd seen that calculating look before the concern slid into place like a mask. Katie spent the night in the hospital. I stayed with her, dozing in the chair beside her bed, waking every time a monitor beeped. Around 3 in the morning, when the hospital was at its quietest, Katie whispered, "Mom, I'm here, honey." The chicken tasted funny, just for a second, like Oily. Oily how? I don't know. Different. But I thought maybe Mother was trying a new recipe. I sat up straighter. Katie, when you say oily, I don't know, Mom. Maybe I imagined it. She closed her eyes again. The Benadryl was making her drowsy. But I couldn't sleep anymore. Oily. Peanut oil had a distinct taste if you knew what you were looking for, and Patricia Morrison was an excellent cook. She would know exactly how to disguise it. The next morning, Katie was discharged with a new EpiPen prescription and instructions to follow up with her allergist. Brian picked us up, fussing over Katie, shooting me nervous glances in the rearview mirror. Mother wants you both to come over, he said. She wants to apologize in person. For what? I asked sharply. Accidentally almost killing your wife? Mom, Katie said softly. She always hated confrontation. My gentle girl, who'd rather swallow broken glass than make a scene. We don't know it was the food, Brian said. Could have been anything. Dust, pollen. In March? In your mother's spotless house? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Brian, Katie ate one bite of that chicken and went into anaphylactic shock. One bite. We can't prove. I want the leftovers tested. The car went silent. Katie looked at me with wide eyes. Brian's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That's ridiculous, Margaret, Brian said finally. Mother would never. Then the test will show nothing, and we can all rest easy. But Brian didn't offer to get the leftovers tested, and when we got back to Katie and Brian's condo in White Plains, Patricia was there, sitting in their living room with her own key like she owned the place. Katie, darling, Patricia stood, arms outstretched. How terrifying that must have been. Katie hugged her mother-in-law dutifully. I stayed in the doorway, watching Patricia's face over Katie's shoulder. Patricia's eyes met mine for just a second. In that second, I saw the truth, and she knew I'd seen it. I've brought you homemade soup, Patricia said, releasing Katie and gesturing to a covered pot on the kitchen counter. Chicken noodle. Nothing exotic, nothing that could possibly cause a reaction. That's very kind, Katie said, ever the peacemaker. I'll just put it in the fridge for you. Patricia moved toward the kitchen. I followed. You tried to kill her, I said quietly, once we were out of earshot. Patricia's hand paused on the refrigerator handle. Then she laughed, a light tinkling sound. Margaret, you're being hysterical. The stress of last night, you used peanut oil in that chicken. Katie tasted it. Katie was confused. Anaphylaxis causes disorientation. I'm a nurse. Don't play doctor with me. Patricia turned to face me fully. Her smile was gone now, replaced with something cold and sharp. You're a retired nurse with a persecution complex. My son married your daughter out of love, but you've never accepted me as family. Now you're creating drama where there is none. Katie could have died, but she didn't, thanks to your quick action with the EpiPen. Patricia's voice was syrupy now. You were wonderful, Margaret. A true hero. Brian told me how you just took charge. She was good. I'd give her that. Every word calculated, turning the narrative, making me the crazy mother-in-law seeing conspiracies. Stay away from my daughter, I said. I'm afraid that's not your decision to make. Katie is my family now. She's a Morrison. Patricia smiled again, opening the refrigerator. Do you take anything in your coffee, Margaret? You look exhausted. Why don't you let me? I don't want anything from your kitchen. I left her standing there and went back to the living room where Brian was fussing over Katie, adjusting pillows, bringing her water. My daughter looked so small and tired, still pale from the medications. I'm staying here tonight, I announced. Mom, that's not necessary, Katie began. I'm staying. And I did. I slept on their couch and woke up every hour to check on Katie. Brian kept giving me wounded looks, like I was the villain in this story. Patricia's soup sat untouched in the refrigerator. I'd made sure of that. The next week, Katie went back to work. She was a graphic designer, worked from home most days. I called her every morning, every afternoon, every evening. Brian complained I was being obsessive. Katie gently suggested I was worried unnecessarily. But I'd been a nurse too long. I knew what deliberate poisoning looked like, and I knew that if I was right, Patricia wouldn't stop. People like her never did. They were too arrogant, too sure they'd never be caught. I started documenting everything. Every text from Patricia, every phone call, every invitation to Sunday dinner that Katie felt obligated to accept. I bought a small notebook and wrote it all down. Dates, times, what was said, what was served. Brian thought I was losing my mind. Katie thought I was grieving my empty nest, projecting my fears onto Patricia. But I wasn't crazy. I was careful. 2 weeks later, Patricia invited Katie to lunch. Just the two of them, she said. Girl time to bond. Katie agreed, wanting so badly to have a good relationship with her mother-in-law. I'm coming with you, I said. Mom, no. She specifically said just us. Then I'll sit at another table. She won't even know I'm there. That's insane. Maybe it was. But the alternative was letting Katie go alone, and every instinct I had was screaming danger. In the end, Katie went alone. I sat in my car outside the restaurant, a little bistro in downtown Scarsdale, feeling like a stalker, feeling ridiculous. Maybe Brian was right. Maybe I was creating drama where there was none. Katie came out 90 minutes later, laughing at something Patricia said. They hugged goodbye. Katie got in her car and drove home. I followed at a distance, feeling foolish. That night, Katie called me. Mom, I don't feel well. What's wrong? Just my stomach. Maybe I ate something bad at lunch. What did you have? A salad with chicken. And the dressing was homemade, Patricia said. She was so sweet, Mom. She really does want us to be close. My blood went cold. Katie, are you having trouble breathing? Any throat swelling? No, nothing like that. Just nausea. I'm coming over. Mom, it's just an upset stomach. I'm coming over. I made it to their condo in 20 minutes, breaking every speed limit. Katie was in the bathroom, vomiting. Brian hovered outside the door, useless as always. How long has she been sick? I demanded. About an hour. She said it started right after she got home from lunch with Mother. Of course it did. Katie emerged from the bathroom, pale and shaking. I think it's food poisoning, she said weakly. From Patricia's homemade dressing. Mom, please don't start. But I was already on my phone, calling Katie's doctor. I need you to run a tox screen, I said when the on-call physician answered. My daughter has been deliberately poisoned. Margaret, Katie stared at me. What are you talking about? The chicken 2 weeks ago. The salad today. Katie, your mother-in-law is trying to kill you. The room went silent. Brian's face turned red. My mother would never. Your mother is systematically poisoning your wife and you're too blind to see it. You're insane, Brian said. But Katie was looking at me with something new in her eyes. Not anger, fear, because some part of her, deep down, knew I was right. We spent another night in the emergency room. The tox screen came back negative for common poisons, but the doctor said that didn't mean much. Many substances cleared the system quickly. He suggested following up with a gastroenterologist. I suggested something else. I want to test that salad dressing. There's none left, Katie said quietly. I threw the container away when I got home. Of course she had. And even if she hadn't, what would it prove? Patricia was too smart to use peanut oil twice. She'd switch methods, switch substances, always staying just below the threshold of obvious criminal intent. That night, after Brian finally fell asleep and Katie was resting, I sat at their kitchen table and faced the truth. Patricia Morrison was going to kill my daughter. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, one of these accidents would be fatal, and everyone would think it was just bad luck. Poor Katie, so sensitive, so allergic to everything. Unless I stopped her. I called my brother at midnight. Thomas was a lawyer, semi-retired now at 68, but still sharp as ever. Tommy, I need your help. Maggie? What's wrong? I told him everything. The chicken, the salad, Patricia's cold smile. He listened without interrupting, the way he'd always listened since we were kids, and I'd come to him with scraped knees and schoolyard injustices. Can we prove any of this? He asked when I finished. Not yet. But I'm documenting everything. That's good. Keep doing that. Dates, times, witnesses if possible. And Maggie. Yeah? Don't let Katie eat anything from Patricia's kitchen, not until we figure this out. But that was easier said than done. Patricia was subtle. She'd show up at their condo with gifts of food. She'd suggest restaurants and order for the table. She was everywhere, always offering, always pushing, always wearing that concerned smile. And Katie, my sweet Katie, was starting to lose weight, starting to look hollow around the eyes, starting to flinch every time she swallowed. "Mom, what if you're right?" she whispered to me one afternoon, 3 weeks after the salad incident. We were sitting in my apartment drinking tea. Brian was at work. Patricia was, thankfully, at a charity luncheon. "Then we'll handle it." "But how? Everyone thinks I'm paranoid. Even Brian. He says I'm letting you poison my mind against his mother." "Katie, has anything else happened? Any other reactions?" She bit her lip. "Last week. At Sunday dinner, Patricia made chocolate cake. My favorite. I had one bite and felt weird. Not anaphylaxis, but strange, dizzy. I went to lie down, and when I woke up, 3 hours had passed. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Brian said I was being ridiculous, that I was probably just tired. And maybe he's right. Maybe I am being paranoid. Maybe I'm just—" "You're not paranoid. Your mother-in-law is gaslighting you." I took her hands. "Katie, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Okay, here's what we're going to do." Over the next month, I became Katie's shadow. I documented every interaction with Patricia. I took photos of every meal she served. I even managed to save a sample from one of Patricia's care packages and had it tested at a private lab. It came back clean, but the lab tech told me something interesting. "There's nothing toxic here," she said, "but there are traces of prescription medications. Specifically, sedatives. Not enough to hurt someone, but enough to make them drowsy. Sedatives in the food." That explained Katie's 3-hour nap after the cake. I brought the results to Tommy. He studied them, his lawyer's mind working. "This could work, but we need more. We need proof of intent, pattern of behavior. Can you get Katie to wear a wire?" "A wire?" "Audio recording. If Patricia says something incriminating, admits to anything, we have her." It took me 2 weeks to convince Katie. She didn't want to believe her mother-in-law was trying to kill her. Who would? But finally, after another incident, hives that broke out mysteriously, after a cup of Patricia's special herbal tea, Katie agreed. The next Sunday dinner, Katie wore a small recording device hidden in her bra. I stayed home, pacing my apartment, checking my phone every 5 minutes. Tommy had assured me the device was legal in New York as long as one party consented to the recording. Katie was that party. 3 hours later, Katie called me. "Mom, you need to hear this." She came straight to my apartment, leaving Brian at his mother's house. Her hands were shaking as she pulled out the recording device. "Play it from the 30-minute mark," she said, her voice flat, shocked. I connected the device to my laptop and pressed play. Patricia's voice came through, clear and cultured. Of course, I had to be careful with the dosage. Too much and it's obvious. Too little and it doesn't have the desired effect. Another woman's voice, someone I didn't recognize. "But aren't you worried she'll figure it out?" "Katie?" Patricia laughed. "Please, the girl's too gentle for her own good, takes after her mousy mother, no backbone whatsoever. Besides, Brian backs me on everything. He'd never believe his precious mother would hurt his wife. And if she dies? Who dies?" This was Patricia again, sounding confused. "Katie, if one of your little experiments goes too far..." The sound of wine being poured, then Patricia's voice, colder now. "Accidents happen, Helen, especially to people with severe allergies. Everyone would understand. Poor Brian, losing his wife so young. He'd be devastated, of course, but he'd recover. And next time he'd marry someone more suitable. Someone from our circle who understands how things work." My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the laptop. Katie's face was white. "She's been trying to kill me because I'm not good enough for her son." "Oh, honey," I pulled her close. "What do we do?" I called Tommy. He listened to the recording 3 times. "This is enough," he finally said. "I'll contact the DA's office in the morning. But Maggie?" "Yeah?" "Keep Katie away from Patricia. If Patricia even suspects she's been recorded, she might escalate." That night, Katie stayed with me. She called Brian and told him she needed space. He was confused, hurt. He didn't know what had changed. I told Katie not to tell him yet. Not until we had Patricia in custody. The next day, Tommy called back. The DA wants to meet with Katie. They're taking this seriously. Attempted murder charge is on the table. It took another week to build the case. Tommy pulled strings, called in favors. The DA's office interviewed Katie 3 times. They listened to the recording. They reviewed my documentation, months of notes, photos, lab results. They interviewed the ER doctors who treated Katie. Finally, they had enough. On a Tuesday morning, 2 detectives showed up at Patricia Morrison's door with a warrant for her arrest. I wasn't there to see it, but Brian called me afterward, his voice breaking. "How could you do this? How could you have my mother arrested?" "I didn't, Brian. She did it to herself. She was trying to help Katie. She made her food, tried to take care of her. She was poisoning her." "You're insane, both of you. My mother would never." "Brian, we have her on tape admitting it." The line went silent. Then, quietly, "What?" "Katie recorded her at Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago. Patricia admitted everything to her friend Helen. It's all on tape." "I don't believe you." "Then listen to it at the trial." He hung up on me. Katie filed for divorce the same day. Patricia Morrison was charged with attempted murder, assault, and reckless endangerment. Tommy handled Katie's divorce pro bono. Brian never spoke to either of us again. He stood by his mother, even after she was convicted, even after the judge sentenced her to 15 years. At the sentencing hearing, Patricia finally looked at Katie, really looked at her, and for just a moment, the mask slipped. I saw the hatred there, pure and cold. This woman had genuinely wanted my daughter dead, simply because Katie wasn't good enough, wasn't wealthy enough, wasn't part of Patricia's carefully curated world. The judge asked if Katie wanted to make a statement. My daughter stood up, and for the first time in 2 years her spine was straight. Her voice was steady. "You tried to kill me because I embarrassed you," Katie said. "Because I was a working-class girl who married your son. Because I wasn't part of your country club world. But I'm still here. I survived. And I want you to know that every day you spend in prison, I'll be out here living my life, the life you tried to take from me." Patricia's face twisted. For a second, I thought she might lunge at Katie, but the bailiffs were ready. They took her away, still protesting her innocence, still insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Brian filed for an appeal on his mother's behalf. It was denied. He moved back into Patricia's house, maintaining it for when she got out. He never remarried, never spoke to Katie again. Katie moved in with me for a few months, while the divorce finalized. Then she got her own place, a little studio in Manhattan. She threw away all her EpiPens from the past 2 years and got new ones. Started therapy. Started healing. 6 months after the trial, Katie came over for dinner. I'd made her favorite spaghetti carbonara, with ingredients I'd bought myself, prepared in my kitchen that Patricia Morrison had never entered. "Mom," Katie said, twirling pasta on her fork, "thank you for not giving up on me, even when I thought you were crazy. You're my daughter. I'll always fight for you." "I know. But I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I wasted so much time trying to make her like me." "You weren't wasting time. You were being kind. Being yourself. That's not a waste." She smiled, but it was sad. "I just don't understand how someone could hate that much, could plan something that cruel. Some people are broken in ways we can't comprehend." Patricia wanted control. She wanted Brian to marry someone she chose, someone she could dominate. "You were strong enough to be yourself, and she couldn't stand it." "I wasn't strong, I was terrified." "You wore that wire, you faced her in court. That's strength, honey." Katie ate another bite, savoring it. "This tastes amazing. I'd forgotten what it's like to eat without being afraid." And that broke my heart. Because my daughter, at 32 years old, had spent 2 years of her life afraid of food, afraid of her own mother-in-law, afraid she was losing her mind. But she was safe now. Patricia Morrison was in prison where she belonged, and Katie was free. That night, after Katie left, I sat in my quiet apartment and thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, the retired nurse who thought her hardest days were behind her, who thought raising a daughter was the hardest thing she'd ever do. I'd been wrong. The hardest thing was watching someone try to kill that daughter and fighting like hell to save her. Harder still was being called crazy, paranoid, overprotective. Having my own son-in-law tell me I was poisoning my daughter's mind when his mother was literally poisoning my daughter's body. But I'd done it. I'd documented everything, gathered evidence, built a case. I'd used everything I'd learned in 37 years of nursing: the observation skills, the attention to detail, the ability to see patterns that others missed. And I'd called my brother when I needed help, because that's what family does. Real family. Not the Patricia Morrisons of the world who use family as a weapon, but the people who stand with you in the darkness and help you fight your way back to the light. A year later, Katie met someone new. A teacher named David, who made her laugh and never once tried to control what she ate. They dated for 8 months before he proposed. Katie called me, breathless with joy. "Mom, can you believe it? I'm getting married again." "I'm so happy for you, honey." "And Mom? David wants to meet you. Really meet you. He says any man who marries me is marrying my mother too, and he wants to make sure we get along." I laughed, tears in my eyes. Smart man. "Yeah, he is. And Mom? He knows everything. About Patricia, about the trial, all of it. I told him on our 3rd date because I didn't want any secrets. And you know what he said?" "What?" He said, "Your mother sounds like a badass. I can't wait to meet her." I laughed harder, joy bubbling up from somewhere deep inside. I like him already. The wedding was small, just family and close friends. Tommy walked Katie down the aisle since her father had passed years before. David's family was warm, welcoming, everything the Morrisons hadn't been. His mother hugged me and said, "Thank you for raising such a wonderful daughter." I hugged her back and thought, "You have no idea what it took to keep her." At the reception, Tommy raised a glass. To Katie and David. May their marriage be filled with love, laughter, and absolutely no drama from the in-laws. Everyone laughed. Katie smiled at me across the room, radiant in her simple white dress. She mouthed, "Thank you." I mouthed back, "I love you." Because that's what this whole nightmare had been about. Love. A mother's love for her daughter. The kind of love that doesn't give up, doesn't back down, doesn't stop fighting even when everyone thinks you're crazy. Patricia Morrison had underestimated that love. She'd thought she could kill my daughter slowly, carefully, and no one would notice, but she'd been wrong. She'd forgotten that mothers like me were always watching, always ready to protect our children no matter the cost. And we never ever forget. 3 years after the trial, I got a letter. It was from Patricia, sent from prison. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short, written in Patricia's perfect cursive. "I hope you're satisfied. You destroyed my family. You poisoned Brian against me. You stole years of my life. I did nothing wrong except try to protect my son from an unsuitable match. One day, when you're alone and forgotten, you'll realize the damage you've caused. I hope it haunts you." I read it twice. Then I did something I hadn't expected. I laughed. Because Patricia still didn't get it. She still thought she was the victim. Still believed that attempted murder was justified if it meant protecting her vision of her son's perfect life. She'd learned nothing, felt nothing, understood nothing. I threw the letter away and called Katie. "Hey Mom, what's up? Just wanted to hear your voice. Are you okay? You sound weird." "I'm perfect, honey. Hey, what are you doing next Sunday?" "Nothing special." "Why? Want to come over for dinner? I'm making chicken." Katie laughed. "Sounds perfect. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself. And maybe David, if he wants to come. He'd love that. He's been asking about your famous carbonara." Then carbonara it is. We hung up and I stood in my kitchen, sunlight streaming through the windows, and felt peace settle over me like a warm blanket. My daughter was safe. She was happy. She was loved by a man who valued her, respected her, would never try to control or hurt her. And me? I was the woman who'd saved her. Not because I was a hero, not because I was particularly brave, but because I'd loved her enough to be called crazy. Loved her enough to document every suspicion, fight every battle, stand firm when everyone told me to back down. Patricia Morrison had tried to kill my daughter. But she'd made one fatal mistake. She'd underestimated a mother's love, and she'd forgotten that I wasn't just Katie's mother. I was a nurse who'd spent decades learning to spot danger. A woman who'd raised a daughter alone after her husband died. A fighter who knew how to be patient, methodical, relentless. Patricia Morrison had tried to kill my daughter, but she didn't know who she was dealing with. She didn't know what I was capable of when someone threatened my child. And by the time she figured it out, it was too late. She was in prison, and my daughter was free, building a life, finding joy, learning to eat without fear. That's victory, that's justice, that's love. And I'd do it all again in a heartbeat.